Hey everyone, welcome back to the Dice Matrix. Thank you for watching as always, and I'm serious. I really appreciate all of you. A couple apologies ahead of time. I'm using my big fat head to try to block this glare from the window. I was a little lazy. I didn't feel like changing the angle, so if I lean like that, you'll probably blind, or I'll look heavenly. Oh, okay. So, and my neighbor's building stuff catty corner across the street, so you might hear some hammering or buzzsawing or whatever. And I'm here today to give you my thoughts or reviews, just real quick on Against Darkness, and I also have the Twisted Minions thing. So far, the several number of delves I had, very super enjoyable. And I like the idea of grabbing the characters, using the D6 system. The rules are not written the best. And any other video you watch or go online, I mean, I'm not saying I could do a better job for sure, but there's a lot of, the clarity is not there. Like a lot of things are unclear of how things are resolved. So, but there is a frequently asked questions. You have enough that you can play. First and foremost, I will say that in games like this, I would highly suggest that you, I wouldn't say necessarily house rule, but I try to find out how things are supposed to run and then just use theme/common sense as your number one guideline. So if something is thematic or just makes sense, then use that as your general rule. Okay, so if you stick to that, then you won't get caught up too much. Yes, there's a couple of things like I had to go online to go weird monsters. They're like considered bosses, but they can't be the final boss, but they count towards the boss count. As far as I can tell, that's all that they count as a boss. And maybe there's some other things that other people can debate me on that, and that's fine. I'm not going to get into the minutia. It's not that important, but that's how I run weird monsters. So in the game, you have vermin, you have minions, which are minions and vermin, which are like your smaller creatures. And then you have your bosses and then weird monsters that are that sort of thing. And there's little rules here and there. But like I said, the clarity is, the way it's written, and you have to jump around. And in this book, you have to bounce through the pages. But one of the things I want to mention is the best part. You can download a lot of this on the on BGG for a help thing, but at the very back, I didn't even pay attention, but there is a whole thing of charts at the back, and they come right after the little flow chart that shows you where. Let me just show you this real quick. So basically, this shows you the contents of the room. So when you roll, first of all, you roll 2 dice, and then that's what the shape of the room that you're going to try to, fit it, your character's dungeon piece or corridor in room, and then you're going to roll 2d6, add it together, and then whether you're on a room or a corridor, you're going to be right or left, and it's going to take you to another chart, and you'll resolve it, whether it's a monster or a treasure or a trap or nothing, or you could search. A lot of great things in this game. Okay. So overall, I have to say this has been quite the success for me, and Twisted Minions is fantastic. It adds. I highly suggest. I kind of wish I picked up the Abyss for advanced levels, and that may be my next purchase. But there's a lot of twisted things. Like there's a twisted horde, which gives you more treasure options than the basic stuff here. There's twisted final fights, which deal with bosses, and the twisted dungeons itself that actually deal with the the actual rooms and stuff. But the next thing I want to get is the Abyss, because the minions are really important because they add a flavor to it. After a while, I mean, not the game, becomes boring, but it can become cycling like, okay, I've played this 5, 6, 8, 10, 12 times, and like the goblins and stuff, and that might be enough for you. But if you want some variety, I definitely suggest, in my opinion, pick up the Twisted Minions, because now when you fight a monster, you can choose. So what I do is now when I face a vermin, which doesn't give you an experience, I try to make them more exciting. You roll a D100, 100 percentile, and then it adds a new trait to it, which actually led to a pretty hilarious situation where I thought my wizard was going to die, but they ended up being it was an illusion. So my wizard just knocked out. And then as long as your whole party doesn't die, then you don't have to roll on this chart, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, it was really funny. It really adds a layer to it. Okay. I want to jump down to the table real quick here and show you guys kind of like, a little setup that I do. And it's real simple of what's going on. So, here we go. Again, guys, sorry about my neighbors out there. You might hear some construction. I'll just try to talk over it a little bit. So here's a dungeon that I just performed. And basically, the book kind of recommends you can do whatever dimensions you want, but a 20 by 28 standard grid. And this is me and actually escaping the dungeon after a final boss, but that's here nor there. So I was just going to show you a few ways that I do things. And over here is where I keep a log, this chicken scratch of what's going on. And up here, to simplify things, I use a couple of things. So, of course, I've got my 2 dice. This dice is the first dice, so that's like 64 is my room number. And you can also... all the game uses to determine outcomes for damage is usually, and avoiding and saves and all that is 6-sided dice. Up here, so when I fight something, I usually, I use these 10-sided dice. So if I'm fighting a minion or vermin, I can just fill this in. It's like, okay, these things are level 2. I'm fighting 5 of them. And if they're minions, then I can keep track of my experience. So right here, I use a 10-sided die to keep track of my experience. And like, let's say these were minions and I end up killing all 5 of them. That would bring it to 14. But I would just put a 3 because you're going to use 10 of those immediately to roll for a roll up. So you never really need more than a D10 here. It is very possible that you might fight more than, 10 minions or vermin or whatever, and you can just throw in another 10-sided dice, which I do use 2 more dice. And also this is the life for the boss. So if I have a boss and he is a level 5 and he's got, hopefully he doesn't have 9 life, but I guess he could in the bigger, if you buy the expanded editions of stuff. But anyway, so, this is just a little thing that I use to keep track of. Sorry. They have an optional locked door rule. And what I do is anytime I come across a door in the game or like if it's a certain like treasure in a room, sometimes I'll say, hey, it might have a lock. So I move there. It's not locked. It's not locked. And then question mark. Then I make the roll. And if I roll a 1 or a 2, then it's locked. And then I will deal with it by bashing or using somebody like the rogue to try to pick the lock open. And then I reset it back to my S, which is the start. Just a little option that I put in there to make it more interesting. But this dice system works really well. I saw a guy that had a cutout thing, and so it was kind of easy to sort of replicate, but I kind of made it a little more simplistic for me. And then, like I said, my journal just keeps the thing over here. Like I said, this percentage dice here, 24, is for my Twisted Minions manual, but that's neither here nor there. Let me show you. I keep my characters on index cards off to the left, and then I stack them left to right. So like Simple Jack is my fighter. Sorry, I got the light coming through on the thing there. So he's level 2 now, 7 life points, blah, blah, blah. And I let him carry all the party gold. So after each adventure, then so if he goes down, that's an issue. So that hasn't been an issue yet. I got Stabby McStabberson, which is my rogue. All the stats basically on there, and then in pencil it's hard to read in this light. I got Hannah Hillstone, or however you want to pronounce her name, I got here, and I keep track of her blessings and hills down here as I can use them, just like I do with my wizard. Instead of writing down, I write down the spell number of how many spells I have, and then what are ready, and then if I have some scrolls, and then I can either then I erase them when I use them. And over here I happen to pick up some wands. I still have a charge in my wand of sleep, and I have 1 healing potion there. As far as stuff like my wizard, which is the Mighty Budong, is my lantern holder, and I have a game called Shadows of Brimstone, which is excellent, and it has a lot of tokens. You can use whatever you want, but I'm trying to use things to simplify it. And just like I use this for the tracker over there, I use this little small wound marker that I had a long time ago as my party traveling thing. So I'm in that corridor, I'm in here, just to kind of keep in mind of where I'm going. And then I use these little red cubes here that I got out of some other game for wound markers. And that's basically my overplay area right now. And I may change that. It might get better. But anyway, let me head back up top. All right, so that was the setup that I had for how I kind of play the game. I didn't show you that. Also, I think I had the bandage markers, from Shadows of Brimstone, and I just throw them on because you can use one per character per dungeon delve. And like I said, a lot of things can be your own rules how you want. But overall, like if I had to rate this like as a solo game experience, yeah, I mean, you have to like, a game is as thematic as you make it, right? Like, I mean, a game can help you make something thematic. So, but a lot of times if you see something, then your imagination goes off into it and you'll add more theme to it than you need. But some people like having it told to them, like, having the modules or whatever, or using an oracle or whatever. And those are all fantastic. For me, usually my imagination is enough, but sometimes it's nice to have those other aids that add to it. But as a pure dry thing, if you need assistance in that area, it's going to play more like a fun retro OSR, old school Renaissance, board game dungeon stomp, which is what I love anyway, because I use my imagination. But overall, I have to give the game like an 8 out of 10, and everything is excellent. And I appreciate all of you for watching, and have a beautiful rest of your day, and keep those dice rolling.